Sorry if I mispronounced this. This mix was sent in by Braulio. All right, the intro is at least interesting so far. It started off just like a simple synth pad, and now it's kind of slowly detuning more and more. I'm assuming that that was intentional. It's definitely making it feel a little creepy. Some weird like crackling was coming in on the right hand side. I'm assuming that that was intentional. It sounded like something you put there intentionally, but it kind of hurts. Like it's a little over the top, whatever that was. But let's keep listening. Yeah, dude, you asked about the low end. This track is like all low end. This is like the boomiest, washiest thing ever. You have very minimal top end, very minimal mid range. That's probably why those couple things that are poking through in the top end feel painful, because they're the only things in the top end. But like, you got way too much low end going on here. I'm just going to show you guys what's going on here. So honestly, dude, it seems like you just cut too much out of the upper mids, because like you just have this massive drop off after 2K. Even 1K could probably be a little bit higher, but just like, I'm just going to boost some top end here and just listen to the difference it makes in the track. Now we still have a massive dip at 5K, and then it's kind of too hot above that. So I'm just going to do a little bump there as best I can. And then I'm going to have to shelf this down a little bit. But, yeah, let's see how this sounds. Now, obviously, this is an extreme example. Like, fixing this on the mix bus is just not going to be possible. This is going to have to be fixed on the individual tracks. Yeah, man, so it's not so much that you have too much low end, it's just you don't have nearly enough top end. Like, you have a massive drop-off after 2K. It's like you low-passed the entire mix at 2K. So yeah, man, you're going to have to remix this. This is not something that can be fixed on the mix bus, unless you actually did put a low pass on the mix bus, in which case just take that off. But more likely than not, this is going to have to be fixed on the level of the individual tracks. This mix was sent in by Finn. All right, first of all, this is really quiet. I would say if it's not mastered yet, that's not a problem, but it's already compressed to shit. So I'm assuming you're considering it being mastered, so I'm going to turn this up. But so far, it sounds like the drums are just way too fucking loud. The drum intro was way too fucking long. Like, tell your drummer to chill the fuck out. All All right, you asked about the low end. The kick in the low end sounds fine, but the bass is like this muddy, washy fucking mess. Sounds like you have very little top end out of the bass at all. That's probably why you did whatever the fuck you did to the bass's low end. You probably couldn't hear the bass well enough. First of all, just bring the fucking volume of the bass up. Like, that would probably fix the problem. But if not, you're not hearing it cut through in the top end. Like, that's where we really hear the bass more than anything, is in like the upper mids, in the like the 1 to 2.5K range. That's where you're really going to hear the bass cut through. The low end is way more of a feel thing than like an actually noticing the articulation of the bass. But bass is a muddy mess. It's making the guitars feel like they're a muddy mess, but it might actually just be the bass. It's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, definitely drums are way too loud compared to everything else. Like, there's very little definition in anything but the drums. All right, in this section that we have an isolated guitar on the left, the guitar tone sounds fine. Like, maybe could use a little bit more upper end bite, but in general, the guitar tone sounds fine. It's just everything else is fucking with me. Yeah, man, so you probably boosted the low end too much overall, although it's not really feeling like too much of a problem in the kick. It feels like way more of a problem in the bass. It sounds like you just cranked the low end on the bass thinking like, oh, bass, low end. If I need the bass louder, I need to turn the lows up. Like, no. Dude, just turn the volume of the bass up overall. The bass sounds like shit. It sounds like a boomy, muddy mess. It's just, that is ruining your whole track. Like, you boosted the crap out of the low end on the bass. Just take off that EQ on the bass, just fucking turn it up, man. If after you bring the volume up you still can't hear it, you probably need to boost in like the 1 to 2K range to make it cut through the guitars. Like, you have too much low end and it's mostly from the bass. It's just making the whole track sound muddy and gross. Other than that, again, the drums are too loud. Like, it feels like mixed by a drummer. Like, turn the fucking drums down or turn the guitars up, something, but like, you got a lot of balance issues, and then the bass sound is just ruining everything else. This mix was sent in by Andy. It is just too much low-end day across the board. What the fuck, guys? Okay, this is the longest fucking intro for like a 3.5 minute song. We're like a minute in and it's still the intro. We're a third of the way through the song and it's still the intro. Come on, man. All right, man, so overall, your biggest problem is your low end. You boosted the crap out of the sub frequencies, and you've cut a lot out of the low mids. So it's like, it feels empty and boomy all at once. The low mids is what's going to give you that, like, low end feeling on most playback systems, okay? Like, you're clearly mixing on something that you cannot hear sub frequencies at all, because if you were, you would not have boosted them this much. If I had a subwoofer in here, my entire building would be fucking shaking. Like, you boosted the crap out of everything below like 80 hertz. You probably can't even hear that in your room, so you boosted it too much. And then you cut a bunch out of the low mids for God knows why, probably because that actually is being recreated in your room and you felt like there was too much low end at one point, so you cut that. So just like, you got a ton of low end problems here. Like, that's your biggest problem, is you boosted the crap out of the subs and you've cut a bunch out of the low mids. Like, other than that, if you hadn't done those things, the source recordings sound like they're probably fine. It's just your low end is completely fucked. This mix was sent in by David. All right, man, this feels like a smiley face EQ. It feels like you have a whole lot of sub-frequency information. You have a good amount of top end, but the whole mid-range feels kind of empty. Yeah, it feels like a smiley face. We're going to keep listening, but in general, it just feels like you have way too much low end, way too much top end, and then the mid-range is just empty.
If I told you everything that I say to myself, would you shake your head and tell me that this isn't fair? I can take most anything and I'll still be alive, but the voices in my head wouldn't quit, no.
All right, dude, it's kind of weird. It feels like you were too concerned with your high mids being overpowering, because like we have like a lot of top end going on at like 5K and up, and then a lot of low end, but the majority of the mid range isn't too bad, but like those real cut through frequencies all seem to be missing. So everything from like 1K to like 5K seems like you cut a lot of that out of everything, which is why everything just feels so low end heavy and so empty, because you took out all the presence of everything in the mix. About the only thing that you left the presence in for was the vocals. Then you still have like a lot of top end in the guitar, so again, you're looking at like that 5K, maybe even like 4K area, but like up there, it just feels harsh. You're usually going to want a little bit more guitar in like the 1 to 2K area, because that like gives you that presence, it gives you that cut through, but it's usually not too harsh in that area. But usually above 2.5K all the way up to like 5.5K, that's like a lot of harshness in the guitars. So yeah, I mean, overall, it feels like you cut the presence range out of everything. So everything just feels both really dark and really top end heavy at the same time. The way you've done these cuts, I really think that you were just overthinking it more than anything else. So like, don't overthink it. Like, it feels like you were worried about the upper mids being too harsh, so you cut a bunch of them, but like, that's not really your problem. It's the lack of them that's making everything feel weird.